Hello, this is Dr. Bob DeMaria, the Drugless Doctor, and today we're going to talk about get to know food labels. This is probably one of the most important segments that you're going to ever watch from me because food label reading impacts your health. First thing I need you to understand is how many servings are in a portion of a container that you're buying. So when you look at the label, it's going to say the size of the product itself and the number of servings in each container. It's going to be very important for you to know that because if you eat the whole container, that means you may be getting double or triple of what you think that you're eating. A very important number is calories. When you look at the label, and I have this happen so many times to our patients, it's the number of calories per serving. So I want you to go back to what I just said. How many servings are in a container or in a portion? Then I want you to think, how many calories are you getting from a serving? For example, let's just say that there are 3 servings in the container and it takes 10 items to make that. Well, if you eat the whole container, you're getting that number of calories. For example, let's say it's 100 calories per serving. If you eat that entire item, you're going to get 300 calories. How many calories per serving are you getting with fat? That's also very important because you can now start to compare the labels because one label might say low fat, but in essence it has a lot of fat per serving. So I would need you to become very label savvy, see the number of calories per serving. I want you to ingrain that in your heads. Let's talk about fat. This is probably the most important part of the whole label for all you fat phobia watchers. On the top it says total fat, and then right below it it's going to say saturated fat and trans fat. Now there's some important numbers I need you to get here because what's really tricky, there are some labels that are going to say 0 grams trans fat, and the whole essence of it is that they could legally say 0 grams trans fat if it has a half a gram of trans fat or less per serving. So if you see an item that says saturated fat and total fat, the trans fat, if you subtract it from saturated fat, could still be in the product that you're eating. You want no trans fat at all. None. So let me repeat that to you because I don't want you to be confused with this. You look at total fat, and then there's a sub-portion of that that says saturated fat. And below that it says trans fat. I don't want you to be tricked because you are part of the Dr. Bob Drugless Doctor family right now. And in the same section, it talks about sodium, cholesterol, and carbs. Now this label is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. You're allowed to have, according to the rules, whatever that means, up to 200 milligrams of sodium in a day. I really want you to watch your sodium if you happen to be somebody that has high blood pressure issues. If you go to the very next one, it's cholesterol. It has the amount of cholesterol in the serving. Remember, this is serving size. So if you're watching your cholesterol and it has the number of milligrams in there, and you'll also see, which we'll talk about next, the percent of daily value, you want to keep that to a minimum. Finally, it's carbohydrates, which are the amount of basically the sugars that are going to be inside of an item. You'll notice that there's no percent value for trans fat or carbohydrates because you want to minimize or eliminate as many carbs that you can because it's one of the leading causes of obesity. I'd encourage you to go back and watch this section again. It's very important for your long-term health. Let's talk about the foods you really need to have here in section 4. Vitamins A, C, calcium, and iron. Just as a side note, vitamin A is really important for skin and for your eyes. Very important part of what goes on inside of your liver. Vitamin C Your body cannot make vitamin C. It has to come from your diet. So you always want to make sure that you're eating fresh fruits and vegetables and other optimal sources of vitamin C. What's really interesting about food labeling and the calcium, it's going to have the percentage here. Now I'm going to share a little nugget with you. You take whatever the percent is times 10, and that's the milligrams of calcium that's inside of the product. Let's talk about iron. If you happen to be a female through your fertile years and you're having a menstrual cycle, you want to make sure that you have iron. Iron helps make red blood cells strong to carry oxygen, which is going to increase your energy. This is the part of the food label you want to make sure you get enough of. What I want you to do now in section 5 is look at the percent of daily value. Now this is very significant because I know some of you are watching certain aspects of your diet day to day. So for you fat watchers, you want to be aware that this particular item is going to give you a lot more fat than you bargained for. So you might have something that says low fat, but in essence there could be quite a lot of fat in there depending on other items that you're eating through the day. If you look really close, it says nothing by trans fat, nothing by sugar. And the reason is you really should limit those food items. When it comes to protein, the U.S. government really hasn't had a percent necessarily of daily value that pertains to adults because we all need protein. Some children may need to limit the amount of protein that they're going to be having throughout the day. So this percent of daily value is going to tell you the items that you really want to stay away from. Trans fat, sugar. Always be aware of the amount of cholesterol that you're putting inside of your body. And you know, just overall thinking, try to focus on foods that are USDA organic. Organic foods do not have the same negative impact sometimes as all natural foods do. So as we go through this, always be aware that you want to focus on as much organic that you can. In part 6, which is the footnote, now you're going to notice that the footnote is not on all of the food items that you're purchasing. The whole label concept in the United States is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. And you'll notice in the footnote that they have different values for the total fat and the saturated fat, which for all of you that are really aware of the amount of fat that you consume, you're going to really want to focus on that. But what I'm seeing for myself in my practice that I want to really share with you, especially if you're going to be going to a restaurant, you should ask for the calorie serving amount of sodium content because you'll be amazed the number of milligrams of sodium that are in your food items. And some of you have been suffering for years with high blood pressure and swelling in your body. It's directly by the amount of sodium. And I know that the value is 2,000 milligrams, but sometimes you can go and have one meal someplace, or one of your boxed food items could have 2,000 milligrams. So I want you to be aware of that. And also in the cholesterol, there's the amount of cholesterol per serving that's going to be inside the package. Now, one area that most people seem to sidestep is the amount of fiber. And fiber is in one of the groups, and you really want to make sure that you're eating foods that have fiber in it also. You want to consume up to 25 grams of fiber per day. So you want to minimize your cholesterol, you want to minimize the sodium, you want to increase the fiber. So I want you to go back and you're going to want to watch this several times. If you just can put your brain and wrap your brain around some of these thoughts, it's going to improve your overall state of health beyond what you can imagine. I'm Dr. Bob DeMaria, the Drugless Doctor with Get to Know Food Labels. Thanks for watching.